Good morning. So we are in New York and we're 8 days from moving into our new apartment, which we're super excited about. Actually, it's a house. And we're off on the adventure. And one thing I just can't stop thinking about is obedience before we know the whole picture, which feels like our life is, we're right in the middle of all that. But I've been reading both in Genesis and in Acts, and this just keeps just grabbing me. And so in Genesis 12 it says, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." That's all God told him. So we know the rest of the story because we've read the Bible, or if you haven't read the Bible, his story is amazing. But that's all that God told him. He didn't know the rest of his journey. And then the next verse, in verse 4, it says, "So Abram went as the Lord told him." So I just think that's crazy. He picks up, he leaves this whole land with all his family and his belongings, leaves the land. He doesn't know how they're going to be provided for. He doesn't know what's going to happen next. All he has is the promise from the Lord that God's going to bless him and that he's going to be a blessing to all the nations of the earth. But it says Abraham went. So God spoke, Abraham goes. No questions about it. I mean, he may have had questions, but it doesn't tell us that. And I love that because that's really faith. He didn't say, then I'm going to have water come out from a rock, I'm going to provide manna, I'm going to do all this stuff for your descendants. It just says, go. And then in Acts, which is the New Testament, it's pretty similar. So I was reading today in Acts 8, the story of Philip, and it's in verse 26, and it says, "Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, rise and go toward the south to the road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is a desert place." Period. So that's all the Lord tells him. He tells him to get up and to go. He gives him clear direction, and then he tells him it's a desert place. And it says in the next verse, verse 27, "And he rose and went." And then as he continues, so in his obedience, he listens to the Lord, he gets up and does what God says, not knowing what's going to come out of it. And then it continues and it says, "And there was an Ethiopian, a eunuch, a court official of Cadence, queen of the Ethiopians, who was in charge of all her treasure. He had come to Jerusalem to worship and was returning, seated in his chariot, and he was reading the prophet Isaiah." And then in verse 29 it says, "And the Spirit said to Philip, go over and join this chariot. So Philip ran to him and heard him reading Isaiah the prophet and asked, 'Do you understand what you're reading?' And he said, 'How can I understand unless someone guides me?' And he invited Philip to come up and sit with him." So again, Philip only hears one chunk from the Lord and goes in obedience. And then when he gets there, that's when God speaks to him again and tells him what to do. And so he goes over to this chariot. Philip invites him up, which is crazy. And so his obedience, this guy invites him into his world to help him understand what he's reading. So then the story continues. And it says, "And the eunuch said to Philip, 'About whom, I ask, does this prophet say, about himself or about someone else?' And it says, Philip opened his mouth and began speaking with this scripture and told him the good news of Jesus. And as they were going along the road, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, 'See, here is water. What prevents me from being baptized?'" So I just love it because Philip's obedience to go just on the first word of the Lord, and then God continues to speak, and a man gets saved, which is amazing. And it's just inspiring to me about obedience when we just hear the Lord say one thing, that often I think our hearts want to know the whole picture, but faith is really stepping out when we don't see the whole picture and listening to the voice of God. So I hope that encourages you as it's encouraging me daily to step out in faith.